How's it going, everybody? Welcome inside a Thursday edition of the Tall Can Audio Podcast. Matt Robinson back with you here in the TCA studio in beautiful Bytown, Canada. Just to bring everybody up to speed in case you missed it, on Tuesday morning, we spoke to Julian McKenzie from The Athletic about everything that's going on right now around the Montreal Canadiens, the vibe in the city of Montreal where he grew up and where he's been spending some time recently. Got into that. Certainly talked a little bit the Avalanche and the Vegas series and some of the surprises that have come along with that. You know, releasing his first book and heading out on a book tour and what that was all like. That was all on the Tuesday edition of the show. There was so much to cover, we ended up splitting this in half. So if you've missed it, go back at tallcanaudio.com or whatever app you're hearing me on right now. You can hear that all. And now we will dive into the second half of our conversation with Julian McKenzie on all things Ottawa Senators here on the Tall Can Audio Podcast.
Time to talk about the Ottawa Senators where nothing happened.
Nothing at all, man.
Nope.
No, quiet year for the Sens. Good talking to y'all. Have a good summer. No, I think we will. There's a thing or two here to discuss. I am going to crack into a second pint here, man. I don't know if you're going to have that second side or not.
I'm still nursing the first one, but also I will give a shout out again to Growers, established 1922, made in Ontario. Their Honeycrisp apple, a little bit sweeter than the Okanagan ones, but yeah. I like it. It's cool. Nice. This has caramel in it. Let's look at the ingredients.
Oh, wow.
Cider, natural flavor, caramel. No wonder there's some sweetness in
for sure, man.
Good on that. I had no idea caramel was a thing in ciders. No wonder. Well, actually, there's caramel in this Okanagan one too, but I had no idea.
We've just never looked at the ingredients close enough, I suppose. But now we know, man.
No, I know. But no, you go ahead and pipe open the second one.
I certainly will. This is from the Sawdust City Brewing Company up in Gravenhurst. Up in the Muskokas, anyway, in that general neighborhood. This is called Juicin', I guess. So a 6% IPA. We'll see what that's all about. I'm betting it's juicy. Look, man,
you bet you drinking that?
I am just throwing that down.
It's like, this is dry as hell. It's not juicy.
What were they talking about?
It's juicing.
You and I were just talking before we fired up here for the second half. I'm curious because I know you're a big music guy.
Yeah.
And last fall when you were in for the first time after that, you kind of dropped a huge list of concerts you went to that previous summer.
Last summer was crazy.
Do you have, while you're relaxing, while you're catching up, while you're kind of allowing yourself to breathe, you got any concert tickets booked? What's on the agenda for this year?
I think I'm going to see... my sister hooked me up with tickets to see J. Cole. So I'm going to go see J. Cole in July.
In Montreal?
In Montreal.
Yeah.
I would like to go to Osheaga this year. I haven't figured out my ticket situation, but...
what's the big headliner there?
Who are the... You know what? I don't know all of the headliners, but I know some people I want to see.
Sure.
I know I want to see Kehlani. I want to see Clips. I should pull up the set list for Osheaga in front of me. But like those two acts particularly had big 2025s, and I very much would like to check those performers out for
like that's part of your unwind, right? That's part of your summers. Getting to see some music, you seem to like that.
I love doing that because it's just like I don't have to worry about like writing about some trade or something, and
you don't know. July 21st, the Sens may make some big move that ruins your summer night.
I remember like there was one year I was hanging out with a friend and I just didn't check my phone the entire day. We legit like hung out the entire day. And when I got to my phone, it had been like an hour since the Tkachuk-Huberdeau trade. Oh. So like
kind of a big deal.
Which like I'm glad I didn't have to like write about it, but like it was still like a big thing.
Yeah.
But in terms of headliners this year at Osheaga, 21 Pilots, the XX, the Neighborhood, Kehlani, like I mentioned earlier. Tate McRae is on the Saturday.
Okay.
Somber, Turnstile, Empire of the Sun, Mount Joy. Franz Ferdinand is also on the Saturday. Wolf Parade, they had a song that got played a lot on Heated Rivalry this year, so I'm sure people will go for that. And on the Sunday, Lord, Gunna, Major Lazer, Clips. I don't know Subtronics, but I know Sarah Larson. SG Lewis of Monsters and Men. There's a couple people I'd want to watch on the Sunday, but particularly on the Sunday, I would love to see Gunna, Clips.
Honestly, my friend, I wish I hadn't asked you the question. I feel so old.
You don't know any of these people.
I know some of these people. I know Franz Ferdinand. And I do know Tate McRae. Like I know
I've seen Tate McRae. Tate McRae performed at the NHL All-Star Game in 24.
Right.
That was cool. But like, there's a couple artists I'd actually like to see at Osheaga. But I don't know. Okay. I actually haven't
mapped it all out yet.
I haven't mapped it all out yet. And I feel like this year, like in terms of concerts, like, let me knock on wood, but like it might be a quieter year.
Okay.
Like last year was cool because it was like, all right, we got to make sure we're out for the weekend. You know, we got to see what's going on with Osheaga. I even went to like the country festival after that, and I got to see Shabuzi for a little bit. You know, but like this year, I don't know. I don't know how many concerts I'm going to be able to watch this year. Sorry for making you feel.
No, I did that to myself, and I do it entirely too often.
You mean we're not going to bond over the XX?
Seems unlikely, bud.
I was really looking forward.
When you want to circle back in the fall and bond over the NHL 04 soundtrack.
I was really looking forward to going through the entire Clips discography with you. You mean we're not going to talk about Hell Hath No Fury?
I believe, as the kids say, Julian, I love that for you. I'll be listening to the same hip album I've listened to for the last 30 years or whatever. I don't go places. I'm not fun.
Kaylani? You didn't hear Folded? That won Grammys last year. Well, this year, I should say.
Okay, well, you know what? That sounds great.
Well, Lord? She was a big deal the other year.
Yeah, the other year was like 2016, and I do know 2 Lord songs.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm keeping up.
Anyway.
I'm young. I'm hip. I'm cool.
You are hip. You listen to the Tragically.
This is it. And it's tragic, man. My music knowledge at this point. Why don't we talk about the year that was for the Sens? And I would stop short of calling that tragic, but it was adventurous. It was perhaps surprising in a way that it hadn't been since the Melnick era. And not necessarily in a things have been mismanaged kind of way, but it just kind of felt like every other week something was popping up again, right? Through the first half of the season, people were concerned, rightfully so, about Brady Tkachuk's health.
Yeah.
We had the Olympics and who was going to come out of that healthy. Some of them went to the White House, and then we had Keith Tkachuk talking about ice time. We had Linus Ullmark taking time away for his own mental health, which some people did not respond particularly well to in the fan base or supportive of. I think most of the fan base was reasonably supportive, but not everybody in a general sense. And we can kind of dive into a couple of these things.
Right.
Just when you showed up in September at training camp, did you expect kind of a run-of-the-mill year, or have you been doing this long enough to just know, I don't know what it's going to be, but something will happen along the way? Like, how did this year kind of fit into the... you know what I'm saying?
I know as long as I've been at The Athletic, I don't know if I've ever experienced a boring year covering a team, whether it's in Montreal or in Calgary or in Ottawa. So you always have to, like, you know, just be ready for whatever storylines are to come. I guess just once it got to December, January with the Linus Ullmark stuff and everything after that, it just felt like an avalanche of different things. And I guess also just because I was dealing with the book too, it just felt like a lot. I would say just with the Ottawa Senators, I still give them a lot of credit for, in spite of everything kind of swirling around the team. And I know as much as they want to be like, yeah, we're not hearing all that stuff outside the locker room. Like, I'm sorry. Like, some of that stuff definitely can wear people down
100%.
If it can. And the fact that they were able to put themselves together and make the playoffs. One storyline you didn't even bring up was the fact that like half their defensive core got injured.
Yeah.
And they had to find a way into the playoffs with the defensemen that they had.
There was a game where the top pair was Yakimchuk and Clevin. Like, do I have like you're like, what is going on right now with everyone? No, you're right. I did not focus enough on the health while teeing this up.
No, but it also goes to show how eventful the year was, where something like that could be like, oh yeah, right, that happened. Like the penalty kill was not good until January. They switched PK coaches.
Yep.
They went from Nolan Baumgartner to Mike Yeo. That is an afterthought in the grand scheme of things.
And I think
with this team,
we've forgotten already.
Do you know who is also an afterthought? Who was like a storyline for like the first 2 months of the season? Curtis McDermott. There were people who were arguing about whether or not he should be in the lineup.
At some point, their record was like 6-1 with him in the lineup.
It was like, Travis Green stepped in front of people we got asked a question about Lars Eller and made it all about Curtis McDermott and the record in the lineup.
Right.
That was a whole thing for like
it's
like a month and a bit, and then it just got completely forgotten about because of Linus Ullmark and Brady Tkachuk.
Just because of how, you're right, all those other bigger stories that will be remembered longer, and I think also being swept in the first round of the play. We've forgotten what a run they went on just to get there, right? Like, they were dead and buried in January, like second last in the conference.
They were tied for last in the conference. Like, it was bad.
And so while going through all of these other stories, all of these other injuries, all these other distractions, it was an incredibly successful second half. Now, that obviously comes with the caveat that it's because the first half was not very good and you had to dig out of that. But, like, that's a really... I think it's a compliment to that group that with everything swirling around, they were able to have the final couple months that they did just to get there. And I think that gets washed away a little bit when you just think, well, it ended in a sweep. We didn't take the step forward we wanted to. Maybe not. But when you factor in everything that we've talked about here and the injuries on top of it all, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. This is why I want to ask you, like, is this a successful season for the Sens? Is it one that you kind of have to flush and go, well, those particular set of circumstances will never happen again, and so maybe it's a lost season more than a failed season? Like, how do you view it? It's not a lost
season because they made the playoffs.
Right.
And every year that this group makes the playoffs, even if it's a sweep like what we saw with the Canes, that's more experience added onto the experience they already had. Like, if you're in the playoffs and you give yourself a chance, that's a win. That's at least should be part of your goal. If they miss the playoffs, then I think it'd be a lot easier to say it's a lost year, because you cannot afford, with the players at the contracts that they're at,
right,
and particularly with Brady Tkachuk and age and all that too, and particularly Brady Tkachuk with however long he has on his and what he might ask for on his next deal, like, you need to find a way to progress as best as you can. You want to see this team take a step forward. Maybe there's a world they take a step forward next year. It's just now, because the year went the way that it did, and we brought up the Canadians early on in this show, that's a team that we're all going to look at next year and be like, okay, well, are you going to be able to go on a run again?
Right.
The Buffalo Sabres made it all the way to the second round this year after like 15 years of not making it to the playoffs. Is that team going to go back to the playoffs? The Boston Bruins were out of the playoffs the year before. They're back in the playoffs this year. Are they going to do it again? The Detroit Red Wings, they were the best team in the Eastern Conference at one point.
Yep.
And they missed
right up to like Christmas.
Yeah, and they missed the playoffs. Yeah. But, like, are they that far off from being in the playoffs? Who knows?
Well, like, are we banking on the Panthers staying down? The Leafs staying down?
I don't know. I feel more confident that the Panthers are going to figure out a way to be higher up in the standings. But also the Leafs, they have, I mean, they haven't made the pick yet.
No.
They haven't made the pick yet, but, like, if it were up to me, I think I know who I'd pick first overall this year. Yeah. And if they end up picking who I think should go first overall this year, I expect that player to be some kind of impact coming out of training camp.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
All that to say, so many teams, so many good teams, so many prominent organizations in their own division. I didn't even mention the Tampa Bay Lightning, who were, yes, they were bounced in the first round, but, like, as long as you have Kucherov and Vasilevsky and Braden Point and John Cooper coaching that team, like, you have to watch out for them. You have to give them that respect. Ottawa now, how are you going to keep up with those teams? Do you look at what you did in the first round and say, we need to make a whole bunch of changes? Or do you feel like, hey, we ran up against a really good team in the East, we play a little similarly, maybe we don't have to change all that much? But also, what changes could they realistically do? If they want to do something earth-shattering, they don't have the prospect capital like what the Montreal Canadiens have, for example. You might have to move someone off this roster. Is that something you are willing to do, depending on what type of player could be made available? Like, there's a lot of questions I think surrounding the Ottawa Senators and how they can keep up with the Joneses in their division.
I don't think I was close to the only one who said that to me, like, because there's always the conversation, what would be better going into the playoffs? Do we want Buffalo or do we want Carolina? And it's easy to say in hindsight, but luckily I'm on record here having said it enough. I think Ottawa's better matchup was Buffalo, right? and we'll never know what would have happened
We'll never
in that
know
series.
now.
But I felt like Ottawa playing Carolina, Ottawa was playing a more fully developed version of themselves. This is what Ottawa wants to be and will likely get there, but isn't quite there yet. And Carolina is there now. And that's what made it a fairly low event, low scoring series, and Carolina got it done.
Not to mention they were healthier than the Sens too. Remember, Jake Sanderson up until he got hurt too,
somehow coming back,
holding up his arm. Tyler Clevin was using a bubble. He missed the first couple.
Zub ends up
getting hurt.
Yeah.
I think one thing that kind of got lost in the pre-look for this series was just how banged up their back line was,
right,
and how much that played a role in them being eliminated. Carter Yakupchuk did as well as he could in the little bit of time he got to play in that series, but what does that series look like if a few more guys are healthy on that team?
Yep. I'm curious as we go through the regular season. We're not going to hit this point by point, but the big stories in the second half seem to be, in a general sense, noise around Brady Tkachuk, right? Whether it was the Olympic stuff and the White House stuff or the podcast stuff, and Linus Ullmark and his leave of absence. And there is always just going to be a segment of the population that doesn't give proper weight to mental health and what that can do to somebody. But those were two major stories around two centerpieces of the organization. What was it like kind of trying to, and I know they're two different stories, but they're two big stories. I'm sort of curious what it was like for you trying to cover that in what one way or one political and one, I don't even know what you'd call it, around mental health, where some people just don't buy it. Trying to tell those stories in a very divided or polarized fan base, no different than the rest of the world, right? We live in a polarized world right now. What's it like trying to tell those stories in a season like this, in a situation like this?
It was kind of wild. The best way for me to answer this is to go one player at a time.
Sure.
I would say with Linus, the fact that he was able to take that time away and to try to recuperate himself, and he comes back to the team, and it seems like he's greeted with open arms by guys on the team, and they get his goaltending coach from his youth days around the team as well. It seemed like the team was trying to make it as comfortable as they could. Mm-hmm. It's just I know that there was a lot of talk about whatever the rumor was around him. That ended up being a whole thing in the statement around that. I think it's just unfortunate that we had to get to a point where stuff like that.
Well, so what you're referencing there, the team put out a statement saying the rumors surrounding this absence it's a strongly worded statement coming up. I felt like, and I'd be curious to get your take as someone who works in the media, I felt like you're talking to a very small minority when you did, you almost put a spotlight on the rumor, right? That maybe not everyone knew this rumor was out there, and when you have to come out and strongly deny it, you make other people dig for it. What was it, right?
It was.
Would you have done it? Did you think it was the right thing to do?
You know what?
There's a strong, we want to stand behind our guy and support him, but also.
You know what? Here's how I'm going to respond to that question. Mm-hmm. The team felt it was the right move to do by their player. Mm-hmm. And when you hear what Linus Ullmark had to say after the fact, where you're hearing all this stuff and you're like, hey, none of this stuff is true, and you're trying to step up for your guy, the team felt compelled to do that. And that's ultimately what they did. Sure. And I can understand to some degree that, maybe I can understand the viewpoint where you say, it's just a rumor, and you leave that alone. It is what it is. I've come with that statement to look at just both viewpoints and understand why some people might be pro a statement in that situation and con and look at the cons of dropping a statement like that. I think ultimately the team just wanted to do right by the player.
We've got your back.
And just have their back, and that's the decision they felt was absolutely necessary. But also just covering that story. And just for me, it was just I want to make sure I say this right, because I don't want to trip over myself too much. But I also just think it was just a bit of a surprise that the story took on such a life of its own in the market, a little outside the market, with how people were talking about Linus Ullmark too, and already going into that break, he was not playing at his best too. He was already drawing enough scrutiny with his goals saved above expected being in the tank, essentially, and him being paid all that money, him being the first year of his deal, and he's not living up to that expectation right away. And then, like, just, like, it was a lot. But, like, I also think, like, I know, like, what I went to on the road with the Sens, hoping to see if I could talk to him one-on-one. It didn't happen ultimately, but, like, it was still interesting to just kind of see how he was around his teammates and just how he was processing some of the games and learning after the fact that, like, I think he wanted to play on that stretch, but he wasn't ready to do that. And then to see how people just responded to him after the fact and applauded him and celebrated his story. Like, it was kind of wild just to see how that story kind of took on a life of its own and all of the attention around the league with Linus. Like, it was like a lot.
That
it was a lot. I would say
ends
that.
up on Hockey Night, and now the whole country is suddenly looking.
So many people wanted to talk about that.
Right?
Like, it was a lot to, particularly as a media member, just to talk about that story and to see what it was like. Like, it felt like a lot. Just and you're right. Like, a lot of people too. I thought with some of the comments they were saying about, like, his mental health and stuff, like, I think we gotta be a little bit careful with stuff like that. Like, just you never really know what a person's going through. Like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, like, everyone should be 1,000% sympathetic to Linus Ullmark. No. I'm just trying to paint a whole picture here as best I can. Just, like, you don't know what a person's going through. You don't know what's going on with them. Like, I do think that, like, people who were going so far as to be like, oh, well, you know, if you really needed that time away, you weren't able to play that game, like, you should forfeit your money. Like, I don't know if that's the right way to go about things.
God help you if you ever end up injured or going through something, and now your employer says,
it's I don't know.
There is a certain percentage of the population that you will simply never reach when it comes to talking about anxiety or talking about depression or they're just shake it off and get back to work. You're like, all right, man. Like, I guess if that's the way you view the world.
That's kind of how I feel about some of those reactions.
Yeah.
I will say, though, for Linus, like, the fact that he was such a question mark throughout the season, and then they make it to the playoffs, and the one thing that's not a question mark is him.
Yes.
He's his best performance as an Ottawa Senator,
fantastic.
And they got no wins to show for it.
The whole thing all
nuts.
year was everyone's playing great. Everything's fine, but the goaltending is there. And now all of a sudden the goaltending's terrific. And where the hell are the rest of you?
Yeah, like, what? I thought that was kind of like a
cruel irony.
Like yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. Like, that was a whole question the entire year, and then at the end of the year, it's like, oh, he's the one guy that's keeping this team in it.
Right.
But I would just say I don't think I've ever at least, like, fully, like, on the front line covered a story like that. Like, the closest comparable I can kind of think of is, like, I mean, even then, like, Jonathan Drouin, when he went on leave, I wasn't as close to that situation in Montreal, but, like, that was a big thing. I mean, even Carey Price going on leave and then him coming back, like, that was also a big thing. I remember covering that a little bit more. Yeah, but he was away, and then he came back. I think it was by the end of the season. I remember, like, the last game of the year he came back and he played. That was in 2022. And then, I mean, it's funny too, if Joseph Wall in Toronto, like, was away and, like, there was nothing around that. But it was just wild to see how a player going away on leave and then it just turned into the storylines that they were. Like, I wasn't prepared for that. That was a bit of a unique situation. And then you have Brady Tkachuk, who, like,
his is almost entirely political. Whether it be left wing versus right wing, Canada versus USA,
feels like anything that man does, it's like people want to make it, like, bigger than it is. If that man, like, breathes to the right, it's like, all right, man, he's up and going to the New York Rangers, man.
Well, so he does.
That's what that means.
A podcast to start the year, right? And it's not unheard of in sports, but it's pretty unheard of in hockey, which is always traditionally more conservative in the sense that we don't give any more than we have to the media. And now, I'm going to sit down with my brother every week and I'm going to put my thoughts on record and some of them are good. Some of them no different than anybody else. I got good opinions. I got bad opinions. But I'm on the record here. And I did feel like there was a certain amount of Brady towards the end of the year, especially going, I've never said I'd like to leave Ottawa, or I've never complained about my ice up. And those things are true, but you did, when you create this, right? When you put this podcast together and you have this platform, it's going to get talked about. Like, I have no problem with Matthew and Brady and Keith sitting around at their dinner table and Keith going, your coach isn't playing you enough. Like, whose dad isn't saying that across sports? But he said it on a microphone. And so I don't know that you get to be surprised when people want to ask you about it later. Well, I'm not the one who said it. I guess that's true. You do employ the producer. Look, you, like me, Julian, host podcasts.
Yeah.
Every now and then, there's a final moment. You go, you know what? I'm just.
Let's get rid of that
little segment.
I understand that. I think some of the stuff that was said on that podcast, like, it's left open-ended enough where you're kind of wondering, like, what, like, did they really, like, one particular comment where I want to say, like, Keith is kind of poking fun at guys who are like, oh, I'm injured with this thing and this thing. And then it turns out, according to Brady, that, like, he was talking about the Florida Panthers, which, like...
Well, and in that moment, it's Matthew who's squirming a little. I believe he was talking about the Panthers.
Yeah, I think even the way, like, Keith is kind of pointing to, like, it's like, okay, like, I think that's... I took it as, like, okay, like, that could easily be taken as a Panthers thing because it was, like, you know, they're banged up to hell at that point.
And they're clearly phoning it in the rest of the year anyway, right? They're tanking.
For sure. I don't know. I felt
ice time though. That was Brady. They were talking about Brady.
Yeah, and like his ice time had changed. Like I think that's fine. But like I when you're the only NHL guy along with your brother having a podcast like that and stuff like that gets said, I can understand. Like, oh man, like you attract a lot of attention. I do think though, like if there are other guys with podcasts, and it'd probably be a little bit different to try to track them all and see what other guys say. Yeah, but like. I was also a bit surprised at how like that kind of blew up too. I also did not expect to get as much vitriol as I did for asking about the podcast stuff. It felt like initially that day we wanted to talk to Brady like before like after skate. Mm-hmm. Like essentially what happened was we're just going to replay the events as it happened. Yeah. It was a morning skate that day. Obviously all the podcast stuff is coming up. And we all thought, like, all right, like, we're going to talk to Brady before the game today. We're going to do this morning skate stuff. And, like...
He's the captain. He typically speaks after
like,
the
he typically would. And it's like, I think for all of us, and for most of us, at least in the media room, it's like, all right, we're just going to do this. We're going to get that out the way and move on. Because already, like, remember, like, we all were in those scrums talking to Brady about the White House celebration and stuff. We knew how big of a thing that was. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, like, we got to... our job essentially, but like he said he was not available to chat with us before after skate, and he was like, okay, and then the team said they're gonna make him available after the game, and that was the opportunity to do it. Like I get it, in a moment like that they won, so like the questions about the podcast are gonna sound a little weird, but
this is the first time you've made yourself available.
Right. Like that's what it is. But a lot of people don't understand that like that's how that is. And like you can go back to the video and listen for yourself with how those questions were.
Did a whole episode on it here, buddy. Sorry.
I gotta go back to that episode and hear what you guys have to say about that, because you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but I didn't go.
He's kind of I already answered that. No, you didn't. Like you haven't, buddy.
For me, I'm not even upset with how Brady responded to that. Like I can understand, like, you know what, like you're if you're saying you didn't mean anything by it, and like the last question where he's like, yeah, I already said this, whatever. I'm like, all right, I get it. Like I'm pushing. Like I'm trying to. My hope out of that exchange was not to antagonize. No, my hope was to get him to clarify on what was said. Yes. Like that is the opportunity to do so. Like
this was my whole point too.
Earlier in the year, for example,
if you're going to put this out publicly, right? Like, and I get to ask you about it. Yeah. What did that mean? What do you? And I found it unflattering of Brady to be indignant about it. Right? I didn't like the look.
if that's your opinion.
And it is. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's it. I could care less. Like, for me, it's just like, I think I was more bothered by like how people were just accusing people in media in Ottawa of us running.
I was annoyed by that as well.
Of running Brady Tkachuk out of town.
Runs at people, taking runs at you and Nichols and whatever. Like,
I think I'm allowed to say it. I think it's bullshit that people think that that's our jobs are just to like run players out of town just because like we have to ask certain questions. Like, if you're putting yourself in that position where stuff like that said and there's an opportunity to clarify things and that's how you respond, like, okay, like, I get it. Like, it's a bit of a tough situation. You don't want to do it. Like, it is what it is. But to just accuse people of like running people out of town off their own agendas, I think it's just stupid. And like, I didn't see a lot of the hate. There was like one guy who DM'd me and called me like a bozo or something. But like, for me, I'm like, I thought I was doing my job in that moment. I'm not trying to be like holier than thou with it, whatever. I like, if Alex did it, if Claire did it, if anyone else did it, that's what it is.
Someone's got to put him on the record. And if he says, I don't want to talk any further about that, I had to ask the question.
Well, that's what it is. Yeah. Like again, like, I don't know, man. I think a lot of people just like see our jobs and just think like, oh, we're just here just to just make players' lives miserable. Our jobs are to ask questions and be fair and try to seek the truth as best as we can. And between that and the White House scrum with Brady, like, I think a lot of people just kind of saw how that went down and people just formed these wild opinions, which is hilarious because the reputation around Ottawa is that, it's
too friendly.
It's a soft, friendly market. And like, those scrums with the leader were like, with the leader of the team, where we had to be on it. All these people are just mad, be like, oh, well, now you're gonna run him out of town. Well, what do you really want? What do you really want if you're a fan? You're like, oh, do you want us to do our jobs, or do you want us to just be like, do PR. Whatever, or just PR? Like, but that's not what we do.
No, I know.
That's not at all what we do at all. Like, I'm sorry. Like, but also like, I don't have any issue with how Brady answered those questions. Like, I don't have any beef or tiff or
no.
I'm not trying to run him out of town. Like, he handled it for all the questions he got throughout the year with those two scrums in particular. He handled it as best as he could.
Yep.
And particularly with that last one, where he's like, I already answered the question, whatever. I'm like, all right, man. Like, I get it. Like, I'm not trying to be like,
and this is where you and I part ways. I didn't like his answer to that. You're the professional asking him the question. I'm looking at that going, man, that's a bad look, Brady. Like, just, you haven't yet answered this, right? It's like, the first time
it's our first time asking him that question, but like, I get it. You want to like,
and I'm not looking. I feel like I should say come up the middle. Like, I'm not looking for you to hold his feet to answer the question. I'm also not looking to go, good answer, Brady, good job.
We also have to understand too, like, this is the stuff that's said on a podcast. I understand, like, he made the point too, like, his dad is his dad. Yeah. And like, he's not going to.
And who amongst us has been somewhere where somebody said something I don't agree with, I don't necessarily so you just kind of laugh uncomfortably and wait for the subject to get changed.
Like, and you're not going to defy your dad, and I could understand that too. But like,
doesn't that come back to just edit that out of the podcast? Like,
they probably should have. They would have saved themselves a lot.
This is all
to do that, but also it's their pod. They can do what they want, and ultimately, like, my thing is just there was an opportunity for us to get Brady to clarify about stuff that was said. And that's all I wanted. It was tough for me to look at that situation and be like, oh, did he mean this? Did he mean that? I don't know.
I'm just going to ask him.
So, yeah, it was just the time to do it. But, like, apparently you get in trouble for clarifying. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't know that I've ever seen it like this before, Julian. And you've been here. This was just your second season,
just my
right?
Second season, yeah.
But between the Allmark story and between the Brady thing, I don't know that I've ever seen as much vitriol towards Sens media, and that's the term you use, right? The blowback you took on some of those questions. The stuff I saw being said about Claire Hanna when she was doing the Linus Allmark story,
bullshit too.
That was awful.
I've seen a lot of people online who have said a lot of disparaging things about Claire, have made these like disgusting AI memes and stuff. Just really deplorable,
I don't know that
really
I've
disgusting
ever seen
things.
And it
for
seems
me,
to dial
I just want to make this point here.
Please,
you should be ashamed of yourself if that's how you want to go about your day and like just like, try to just like shit on a person on your platform where you have no name and you're using some random profile picture. I'm not saying media is above criticism. I'm not saying media is above being told, hey, they get certain things wrong or whatever.
Yep.
But I think to let it get to a point where you're openly like
being
calling them like being
yes.
misogynistic and calling people DEI hires and stuff like that, I think that's too far. And just like how people are looking to go to media and be like, hey, like, you know, you do your job, I think we should be liable as media people to go to fans and be like, you shouldn't be able to do that stuff. There's a reason why people on social media, whether you're media or you're a player, will clap back at fans and be like, don't do that. Don't test me. Like, it's just, it's
well, you see Mark
absolutely
Lazarus
stupid.
go to bat now and that.
Right. Because I think it's because it's stupid.
People come at him hard, and he, a lot of the time he'll ignore it, but if there's a particularly ridiculous point, you see him slap somebody down, and you're like, good for you, man. Like,
no,
that's
but that's what you have to do with some of these people, because a lot of these people, they feel emboldened being in their grandma's basement. To quote Charles Barkley, being in their grandma's basement with their drawers on, with cookie crumbs on the stomach, watching as the world goes by them.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of like, this dude is stupid. No, screw you. Like, that upset me more than anything. Like the Brady stuff for me, it's whatever, because I know at the end of the day, like, I still have to go in that locker room, and there are other scrums, there are other opportunities to talk with him, and like there's a professionalism that comes on both sides, and like stuff like that, just like you forget about it in a day or two and you can move on. Mm-hmm. I think when people do stuff like, again, the AI stuff and just trying to like write
to me, that's
people
the
DMs like that's so stupid.
I agree with you, but to me, those are still the minority trolls that are out there on the very.
It's not everybody,
and this is it. But I did seem to be coming across people that online I typically see as more reasonable, who are certainly not going as far as the AI stuff or the racist stuff or the misogynist stuff, but are going, why is the media so negative? This, like, to me, this year it felt more than most out of the fan base. It was almost like, hey, we fought, especially in the second half, right? Which is when the Allmark stuff happened, the Brady stuff happened. It's like, hey, we're on this run. It almost was like a fear that the media was going to upend the success that the Sens had finally grabbed onto. Even amongst the more reasonable fans, I found there was a little bit more uneasiness with the media, or
there were. I don't even think it was just with media. I don't even think it was just with media. I think it was just with the expectations around this team, and I think even players were dealing with that too. There are different points this year, and I would have to go through the audios on my phone and different press conferences. We don't have time for that, but there are moments where Brady Tkachuk is straight up just like, yeah, man, like there are times when like you win, it feels great, and you lose, it feels like it's the end of the world.
Right.
And I think, particularly online, it's just a section of the fan base, but like I think some people did feel that, and I think a lot of that has to do with like the fact that they finally see their team in the playoffs, the fact that they're finally seeing the core of players that have been assembled do something, and now we're looking at all these other teams in your division who are trying to have the same thing that you have, and you're scared that they might surpass you.
Yeah, Montreal's arrived, Buffalo's arrived. Like,
right,
I can't have the media making us feel
you're freaking out. Now. So you say irrational things.
I guess
maybe you end up saying irrational things like, "Oh man, like our team's finally doing well." And this dude here is getting Brady Tkachuk run out of town. Like, I think a lot of that was just a lot of general anxiety that maybe some fans had. But also, you bring up a good point. Like, it's a very vocal minority of people online, right? Like, a lot of people
who are the crazy, right? Like, those people are the minority.
Because there were a few. You're right. There were a few people who were critical of Linus Ullmark and everything he had going on. But if you go to that first game he returns and he makes his first start, heard a lot of people who were in favor of Linus Ullmark. There were a lot of people who were wondering about what the reception would be like for Brady Tkachuk after he came back from the Olympics. And I get that was a little bit split.
Yeah.
But I think as the year went on, people remember like, oh yeah, like he's the captain of our team and we want to do well. And they got behind Brady Tkachuk.
Yep.
Like, I think this year reinforced more than ever, and I hope I take my own advice, but like people on the internet, the takes that they have, the things that they want to say, like, it's only like a small section of people. It's not always real life, so to speak. And I'm not saying fans can't be fans. I'm not saying fans can't go out and say stuff.
I just think
and whatever,
saw
but
more evidence that fans misunderstand the media. If a bad,
I think so. And again, I'm not saying the media is holier than thou and we're above criticism.
Julian,
and I know you're not saying that either.
It's
but I
just
think
kind
it's
of
important to be said.
Yeah, and I think there's a certain amount of I'm uncomfortable with my team, and if a bad thing happened, I would really rather just ignore the bad thing, and you asking him about the bad thing, which is your job, might prolong the effects of it, might rock the boat.
Right.
Just ignore the bad thing.
And Brady Tkachuk doesn't play in New York. He doesn't play in Los Angeles. He doesn't play in a market that is either considered massive or
there was a lot of please don't rock my boat.
Right, because a lot of that too is like, oh no, like if Brady Tkachuk leaves this team, it's like, well, what do you do? Like this was a star, and this is like and that's a whole other thing in itself about whether or not he wants to be here or not.
Yeah,
but like, you don't want anyone disrupting that balance, and you certainly don't want an idiot with his quote unquote idiot with his microphone in a dude's face, like disrupting that balance and getting them out of here. But also, like, let's be real here. If a player wants out because they were upset about 3 questions they got about a podcast, I don't think that's a guy you want to root for. I don't think that's a guy you want to consider as a leader. And I think Brady Tkachuk, like, say what you want about the year, say what you want about a lot of different things about Brady Tkachuk, just purely from a professional standpoint, I'm saying, like, I still think he means a lot to his team. 100%. I still think he means a lot to the city and the organization, and I think he's made it pretty clear at different points, at least as long as I've been here, that he wants to be in this market. It is also on him if he wants to do something different.
He kept saying, I've never said I want to leave. To stop doing the double negative thing and just go, I will see you in September at training camp.
Fine, but like, I don't know, man. Like, I also think a lot of
that would put so many minds at ease, is all I'm saying.
I also push back on that too.
Okay.
I don't think there was anything Brady Tkachuk could have said that day that would have made people feel at ease. Brady Tkachuk could have easily stepped up to everybody and been like, well, I want to stay. I want to be a part of this team. I want to do all this stuff. I want to be here for a long time.
But he didn't do it. He just kept saying, I've never said I want to leave. But even if he did,
people would still find a way to be like, oh, well, his contract's up. You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. Oh, this team better make the playoffs. Oh, you don't know what's going to happen. Unless someone put the contract in front of him and he signed it and he's like, hey, I'm staying here for the next 10 years.
On camera.
There's nothing, I'm convinced there's nothing he could have said that would have changed people's minds, whether in Ottawa or around the team, or outside the team, that would have made people think like, hey, well, you know what? Like, maybe he does want to stay. Like, I'm convinced of that, and I think, like, sure, he could have done the Jordan Spence thing and be like, well, yeah, I want to be here. But, like, he's also said at different points that he signed long-term and he wants to be here. Like, I don't know, like, I think a lot of the reaction to that, maybe this is just my opinion.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is just, like, a little, I don't want to say overblown, but I'm going to have to use overblown. Okay. I just think that, like, he signed a long-term contract. There's not an opportunity for him to sign an extension. There's a world where he could say, like, and we've heard other athletes do this too, where it's like, yeah, I want to be here. I want to stay. I want to do this stuff.
Hughes.
And they leave.
See you in 3 months. Like
so it's like, it's like, for me, it's like, I'm sure at some point next year, someone will bring up this situation, and it'll be something where it's like, oh man, here we go again.
Well, up until he signs a new contract,
I guess
would be the question.
And even if he signs a new contract, could you imagine if you're Brady Tkachuk and you're like, all right, I'll sign a 3-year deal?
Yeah.
People are gonna be like, whoa, only 3 years? Like, I think a lot of that is just like
Matthews keeps doing it, and it's because he's maximizing people. Oh, you won't commit long term. No, this
go
time,
make some money, brother.
This is exactly right. This time with Matthews, with the Leafs being where it might be a little, but he has re-signed 3 times. He's not working his way out of town. He is maximizing his earning capacity, and that's fine.
I don't know, man. I just think a lot of that attention and stuff. I realize I rambled a lot. Now, but like, I think a lot of that is just like anxiety about like.
Well, let me ask you one last thing.
Caliber. Like, in his future, and you don't want him to
everyone
leave.
uses the term. He's a unicorn.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose that player.
No.
Right? And last thing, because I got to get you out of here. I've taken up a lot of your time, man. But I am curious. The Sens did get a first-round pick back. It will be 32 in the draft. It is an important offseason. You referenced earlier in the podcast that the Sens don't have a whole lot to trade.
Yeah.
If they're going to take a step forward, in your mind, what kind of an offseason do they need to have here? What should they be looking to do?
The point number one of the bullet is you need to figure out your backup goaltending situation. If you are comfortable with Linus Ullmark and Levi Meriläinen, I don't know about that. I think there's an opportunity for this team.
You don't think Rhymes is back?
I mean, even if you brought back James Reimer, I'd be like, okay, you address it in some way. But even then, I'd feel like he's not getting any younger. And even he himself acknowledged as much. I think if you got like a younger option who would be willing to ride pine for a couple games, you are able to get him to do mop up. It could be Stuart Skinner. Maybe you see what Vegas is got going on with Aiden Hill. If he's the next
$6 million for 5
that's a lot years. Though. So maybe not as much.
That's
Aiden
not my
Hill.
guy.
It's not. It can't be, especially the fact if he'd be like $2 million off of what Linus Ullmark is making. But look, you need a cost-effective option. I understand why Devin Levi is being propped up as a potential option to a young guy.
Whether they do that in the division, I don't know, but I'd be interested in that if I was the Sens.
If he ends up on waivers, though,
there you go.
That's another option, right? Like, I think if you're the Ottawa Senators and you can put a guy who he doesn't even have to be the backup forever. Like, if this team, I think, unless proven otherwise, they still believe in Levi Meriläinen as a goaltender. They obviously want to build up their goaltending prospect pipeline. They signed Jackson Parsons last year. Lucas Beckman has probably been the best goaltender, not just in the Q. You could maybe argue in the CHL entirely this year. And he's in their prospect pipeline. They signed him to an ELC. Maybe he plays AHL game. He's probably gonna play AHL games next year. We'll see what goes on with him. But like you got to give yourself options in terms of goaltenders in your organization. But also, if you still believe in Levi Meriläinen, you have to make him your guy. And you put him in the right possible situation, the right frame of mind, so you can give that chance and not give up on him right away. But if you look at your team and you realize, hey, like we have an opportunity to try to win with the core that we have, you need a tweener. You need a Devin Cooley-esque goaltender who you sign him for the purposes of giving him that flexibility of being an AHL guy and a backup. And if it turns out he's actually your real world backup, like you use him, like you need someone of that ilk, but also like there are bigger fish to fry. Essentially, like I would love to see this team get a quality scoring winger who could play on the top line, or at least in your top six, and try to put some goals. That's why a couple weeks ago we got asked at the Athletic about who we'd like to see the teams we cover sign. I still think Bobby McMahon would be a really worthwhile signing, but I also understand too that's probably a guy who's going to try to command some money on the open market.
At 30, having been in the ECHL for as long as he was, he's going to look to try and bank here. Right?
But also, like if you're the Sens and you're able to give him something competitive, like that's a guy who you can at worst,
and
like
this has
a top
to be
9
on
guy.
top of keeping Batherson. It can't be in place of having to swap him out, right? They have to find a way to get that done.
I think if you're the Sens, I wouldn't be surprised if, unless a really crazy trade offer came your way where you were able to get like a top impact player, I could totally see them just try to call around on the free agent market. You try to make a couple tweaks here and there, nothing too extravagant in terms of signings. And then you're like, hey, I could see them doubling down on their team and being like, hey, you know what? Like, I know the first round series didn't go well, but this is still a really good team. And if they're healthy,
they're better than
they're going to be a lot better next year than last year. I could see them being patient with this group, but also if they do something crazy, I'll be there for that.
It's interesting, right? Like, because really the most enticing piece for other teams would be Yakimchuk, and yet
if you're not showing a willingness to move him, then I don't know what you're doing.
And you need pieces on the right side though too, right? Like he would be tough to get rid of. Like you're needing,
unless you're getting a quality player in return.
But unless you're sold that Jordan Spence is now a top 4 guy as Nick Jensen cycles out, and he was pretty good down the stretch. I don't know. Like it's a tough call.
I still think Jordan Spence, the best version of this team is Jordan Spence as a third pairing guy. I still think with the offense that he can bring, him being a secondary option as a power play quarterback, he has a lot of great skills that are useful to this team. But I think more people should look at him as a luxury on top of the defense that they have, as opposed to a core like he should be playing top 4 minutes with Thomas Chabot. And I'm not saying he's not capable of doing that. He's shown that in different spurts this year. And
does Zoop need a new deal? He's got one left.
He's also a guy I think who could get an extension as well.
Yeah, okay.
But all that to say, like in the playoffs, a lot of people talk a lot about the center depth. You need that center depth to be deep to get you through the playoffs. Yep. You need guys on defense who are healthy and are able to play. And why, for a guy like Jordan Spence, who had a really good year, played a lot of great minutes, could you imagine if they plugged in like a really good top 4 defenseman and then Jordan Spence is on a third pair with Tyler Clevin? Yeah. That makes you a much stronger 100%. Team up and down 100%. On defense. Like, again, I'm not trying to take a run at Jordan Spence. I think he's a fantastic player, but like,
well, this is where teams get tripped up. That guy looks great on our third pair. He might be ready to be on our second pair. Now he doesn't look quite as good,
right? Like people look at Shane Pinto and they're like, "Hey, man, like he should be playing like top line or second line." And I'm like, he's an excellent defensive center. It's like, you don't need to rock the boat. Like your center depth is deep enough as it is. Like, or hey, like add another center if you want to. But like this team has centers. Like I choose to see some of those pieces as like, oh, these are strong pieces. And the fact that there are guys who are like, oh, and they have this guy, that makes you a stronger team in the long run, as opposed to putting them on marquee
That's always
positions.
the counterbalance, though, is now to what do we deal from if we want to keep our depth. It's a tough balance.
It's a tough balance, man. That's why this draft class, even if they're picking 32nd, you have to find a way to like make it as much of a home run as you can. You need something in there because. Look, a team like I keep referencing the Canadians, but like Bryce Pickford, Alexander Zurovsky, LJ Mooney, Michael Hage. I almost said Hagee.
Ryan Backer's still on the come.
They have prospects. Yep. Like, not all those guys are going to play. If you're Kent Hughes, you could find ways to make moves and package them to get a better piece. Who are guys on the Ottawa Senators who you think could move the needle in a trade? Is Stephen Halliday going to move the needle for you? Is Blake Montgomery going to do that? Is Logan Hensler going to do that? Carter Yakupchuk might be able to do that for you in a trade, but if you look at your prospect pool and you're like, man, we really need a guy like him, you kind of take yourself out of some of those discussions, but also it might not be the worst thing in the world to be like, hey, like, this is a guy who could probably play one day. Like, we should probably keep him over here one day soon. Who knows? Like, I don't know. I at the risk of being wrong, I think the Sens, I could totally see the Sens double down on their core, partially because they feel that they did enough in the regular season to be good
to do right now.
That, and also just like you are not in a position of strength in terms of being able to move on from players.
When you look at all those fancies that we talked about, right, and the job Travis Green did, and if your goaltending is better next year, and I think most people expect it will be. Now your penalty kill doesn't have the same first half as you've sorted that out, right?
Yeah.
Like you're going to take a natural step forward without having to do much this offseason, and then you see where you are at the deadline. And maybe by then you do have another piece in your system that's kind of showing some flash, and maybe you can shake the keys in front of another team.
Yeah, you dangle it in front of somebody. Yeah. I still think the Sens, at the very least, they're a playoff team.
Yeah.
They know what it takes to make the playoffs. They just need to show a little bit more about what it takes to win.
There's just negativity when you get swept. It was a bad matchup. That doesn't mean it's a bad team.
You got swept by the best team in the Eastern Conference, and you were also injured like crazy on the back end, and even more so when Jake Sanderson got hurt. Like,
I don't think you have to shake the tree too much.
I would be careful about shaking that tree. It's one thing if they got completely dominated to the point where it's like, man, you need to shake up this core and trade someone off. But it's like,
there's not much evidence
careful
to support
because
that.
Like, yes, they probably did allow a lot of high danger chances, and you need to ensure that side of the ice gets rectified. But like, be careful about how far you shake things.
Julian McKenzie, I've kept you a long time here today, man. I appreciate your patience. And we got through this without a power outage. That was a nice change of pace from the last time you were here.
Just gonna knock on this here wood.
And you know what? Since I know you're about to ghost the world for the next 3 months or so, I had to get everything I could out of you.
No, I understand that. That's totally fine, man. Thanks so much for having me, man. This was really fun.
Always love doing the podcast. Subscribe to the Chris Johnston Show if you haven't done so already, and buy
link to that in the show notes.
And buy a copy of Black Aces.
Link to
and
that as well.
Later this year, we should have paperback copies of the book out. So just enjoy the book wherever you buy books, whether you want to support local and go to a local bookstore, or Indigo or Amazon or whatever, just
in time for Father's Day.
Yeah, it's pretty
Not a
good
bad
gift for your pops.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying?
You are, man, I know it's a busy week ahead. I know it's
I'm going home to take a nap after
There
this.
you go. Couple of ciders, a couple of pints, and a little snooze on the couch.
Oh,
Not a bad way to do things, man.
One of the best things about like coming home from Montreal and still having family there is when your mom gives you the leftovers and you're able to bring that home. Like,
I told you before we
great.
fired things up, my mom's been in town a lot here the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
The home cooked meals, man. Yeah.
Dog.
Yep.
Dog. My mom still got it.
Yeah. 100%, man. There's something about it that will never. I'm not a great cook, but even when I do well, it doesn't touch the home cooked version.
Man, ain't nothing like what mom does.
This is it. So we'll wrap things up here. Thank you so much, Julian McKenzie of the New York Times and the Chris
That is
Johnston
true.
Show. This is it.
That is true.
No lies detected. So we'll wrap it up here. Find all his work on The Athletic and on the Chris Johnston Show. Of course, the book Black Aces. All of it will be linked in the show notes at talkcanaudio.com or wherever you're hearing me right now. Julian, thanks, man. Have a great summer.
Thanks so much, man. You too. Peace.
And we will come knocking again when training camp rolls around.
Let's do it.
All right. Take it easy, everybody. We'll catch you on the next one.